Hey guys, after lots of work, lots of optimization, lots of changes, lots of luck and variance, I have accomplished my goal of capping 235% Arboralis without using Tiana. I'm going to show you the video of my clear in a moment. I was just recording my attempts, but I wasn't doing narration. I was playing music. So we're going to watch the video together, and I'll just talk, as we watch the replay of the rank 2 clear. Currently, a lot of players are tied at rank 2. One player has gone above that with a 265% clear. That's obviously going to require Tiana because, she's very clearly designed for this very specific boss. But anyway, so my clear was a 235%. With the team I've been working on, I've tried a few changes. I tried swapping out Kresnik for Ling. It gave me more damage, but the morale was nowhere close enough. I'm sorry, no. The Ling swap. The Ling swap had enough morale, but the damage did not improve. Ling did not bring enough personal damage to really do anything. Her capping did something like 70 million. It was nothing. It was not worth it. Then I tried swapping Kresnik and Ling for Elena. That gave me enough damage. With Elena, I was hitting the damage cap. New problem came up. I wasn't earning enough morale during the clear. So I was capping damage, but I wasn't capping morale score. So fixed one problem, introduced another one. Went back to the original team, went back to the drawing board, thought about it a bunch. I knew that because I wasn't overcapping or anything, I was going to have to go with the 3-stack Sky to do it. I didn't want to rely on pure RNG to stack 3 times without Cerulean Flash. So I adjusted it, and I figured out a way to get 2 stacks of Sky, and the 3rd stack guaranteed safety. And then we could also stack up Carton during this clear by using his modifier boost and his shift form. So let's go ahead and watch the replay video as I will narrate over it, and then we will, I'll show the gear, and you can use timestamps if you want to just skip around. Anyway, now I'm going to edit in the video replay, and then we'll talk about the gear. Alright guys, let's go ahead and watch the replay of my clear. Like I mentioned, during my clear I was playing music, so I have to just mute the sound and all. I wasn't talking anyway during the clear because I was just running attempts. So anyway, so here's the team, not much difference. The ambush, Bulwark is provoking. I might be going a little bit quickly because I wasn't narrating. So on turn 1, we are, real quick, we'll pause the video and we'll point out that Bulwark is starting the fight in his shift form, and Kresnik is starting the fight in his base form. This is because of the strategy changes we're doing. Bulwark's shifted form has 25% higher light resist innately, and that was critical for the way we're doing it, because we're not using Kresnik's resist buff on turn 1, and we're delaying his shift form until later in the fight. So here we go. So let's go ahead and try to, I'll be pausing it back and forth during this. Okay, so we did mitigation and triple ionic with Louise. That was to fill Bulwark's LB gauge because we're not using his TMR or STMR. Also, it gives him mitigation. Kresnik on turn 1 gives us immunity buffs. You'll notice we're not using Chaos Grenade this clear at all, so we don't need to worry about keeping our party break vulnerable. So we needed Kresnik to give us sleep immunity, which is really important. Also, it gives us poison immunity for the morale skill the boss does, so we don't lose morale for that, because we do a little bit less morale fill this clear than usual. But anyway, immunity buffs with Kresnik on turn 1. Sky does her break and hits the bars with wind with the wind weapon. We merc with Laura to seal water and earth. And then Louise is using a fire lightning weapon as well to seal fire and lightning. And then in the shift form, Bulwark does chirp and mixtape. So we have less resistance on Bulwark. We've got Calamity Border, which we did. I might have gone too quickly. Carton did Calamity Border as well. Yeah, I wasn't narrating, so I was going really quick through the menus. Carton did Calamity Border. That's a 40 all resist buff. And then that's enough with Carton to survive turn 1 without Kresnik's ability in his shift form. Okay, now we go back to the base form with Well, first of all, we go to the shift form with Sky. As the first action in the turn, we stack Sky's LB. That's to get a beginning stack. And as I explained in the previous video, turn 2, the boss has no accuracy. So this turn, we are relying on RNG for Cerulean Flash. We need 1 or less. So we're going to go ahead and stack Sky first to get her LB gauge empty, so we can now refill it with other units. Kresnik is going to shift on turn 2 and do Antioxidant for the resist buff. So at this point, we don't need Calamity Border anymore. We're going to sing Laura. We're going to go to the base form with Kresnik, and Bulwark. And he's going to Morale Fill, Mixtape, and Magnus himself to heal and give big mitigation. We're going to use Rallying Cry on Carton. That is just a LB fill to refill Sky's LB quicker. And we're going to 4 times cast Ionic with Louise to really make sure we fill up Sky's LB. There's a slight amount of RNG that you don't fill Sky. Sky, when she shifts, is getting 10 auto limit per turn because we've got 5 from Laura's... No, we've only got 5 per turn. We're getting 5 from her natural innate. And I think that's all she has. So we do need to rely on a little bit of RNG that Louise fills it up enough. But with Rallying Cry from Carton as well, we're fine. So we need RNG here. We're looking for 1 or less Cerulean Flash. If I remember correctly, during this clear, he did it. Yeah, he did 1 Cerulean Flash on the second turn, which was a little irritating because I'm actually going for 2 RNG turns. But it was fine. So there we go. We evaded all that stuff. Okay, so turn 2 is basically the same thing. We do the LB on Bulwark for mitigation. We do the LB again on Sky. There's our second stack. And again, we're going to reload Louise and Carton to refill her LB. And this turn, we're going to turn on Stimulant to get that morale gain going. So, okay, so here's the biggest RNG of the fight, besides variance. Because we got 1 flash on turn 1, we need to survive 2 turns without dying to flash. So of the boss's 8 possible attacks, only 1 or less can be flash. On turn 2 or turn 3, the boss didn't do any flashes, so we were fine. Now the third stack, we're going to guarantee survival. Okay, so here comes turn 4. And this is the reason we delayed Kresnik's shift form an extra turn. We're going to stack Sky a 3rd time. Now we're going to shift Carton and stack him as well. Not stack, we're going to get his modifier boost in his shift form. We're bursting on turn 4, meaning that if Carton does... we're bursting on turn 7. So if we modifier boost Carton on turn 3, it's a 4-turn boost. It'll be active on turn 3, 4... 3, 4, 5... It's turn 4 right now. I'm so confused. Okay, so if we do it on turn 4, it'll be boosted for turn 4, 5, 6, and 7. Turn 7 will be the last turn of modifier boost, but it'll still be there for the burst turn. So we're getting that. Now, the reason we're going to be surviving this is because, let's do Louise first. Louise is going to put up mitigation again and then just do Ionic. We don't really need it that much at this point anymore. We're going to shift Carton and start getting ready. We're going to Morale. We're going to Hurricane, which is a 5-turn imbue, and Mixtape to keep his LB gauge going. Okay, and now we're going to use Kresnik once he finishes autocasting. Kresnik on this turn uses his Light imbue on the boss. More importantly, Shining Siphon gives our party Light Absorb for 1 turn, meaning because Cerulean Flash is water plus light damage, we don't care how many flashes he does on turn 4, it's never going to kill Sky. So as long as Sky survived turns 2 and 3 of stacking, the 3rd stack on turn 4 will always be survived. Also, Carton, in his shift form, even with no resistance whatsoever, will absorb the magic and absorb all the physical because we imbued the boss with light element. Now, we're also going to trigger mana drains because we hit the boss with light element. That's okay, though. We don't really care about that. And all the elemental attacks on Bulwark are still being resisted. So, yeah, we're going to trigger some bad attacks here, the mana drain and all that. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. And no matter how many Cerulean Flashes the boss does, he can't hurt our party. I think he did like 3 or 4 this turn. It was kind of crazy, but we absorbed them all. So it does count, just out of curiosity. Rainstorm. Okay, I lied. He didn't do any Cerulean Flashes at all. But any damage he did do, we absorbed, so it was fine. It was safe regardless. Okay, so here is the next turn. We did get a little bit of mana drain, not too much. We're going to LB with Kresnik right here. So you can LB with Kresnik at the beginning of the turn if you really want to. I didn't need to, so I waited till the end of the turn. It doesn't matter, but Kresnik's LB fills mana. So we're going to go ahead and just put up some hits on the boss. Again, we are triggering bad counters, but because the boss is still imbued with light element, and the whole party in the base form has 100 or better light resist because it's the base form now, the mana drain won't do anything any longer. So we're going to morale fill, killer buff, and then do his mod boost on Bulwark. Yeah, the mod boost on Bulwark, the Bulwark's theme, it's not the biggest deal because Bulwark's damage is terribly trashed here. But when you see the burst turn, I mean, we hit just barely enough damage. If I didn't have a little chip in damage from Bulwark, we wouldn't have done it, but we did. Okay, so let's go ahead and what did Louise do this turn? Okay, Louise did the killer buff, the mitigation buff, the stat buff, and then just an ionic for LB fill. Kresnik on turn 5 did his LB. And like I mentioned, if your mana was a problem, you could have done the LB first. It does fill mana for the party. But we did it at the end, but why not? And that's going to recast mana regen for the rest of the fight, which is, again, more morale boost. So there's the mana drain, but now we're all in the base form of light resist, so the mana drain does nothing. Okay, turn 6, we're still preparing for the boss. A lot of Cerulean Flashes that turn, but we are immune. Okay, so now we need to do the Fist and Peril with Cart. I think I did that next. Yeah, I did the Fist and Peril next, I think. What did I do? Yeah, Fist and Peril. It's time to get ready. So Fist and Peril with Carton. Sky did her Magnus to reapply the attack break for the rest of the fight. Louise, I think this turn just did Incapacitate and then some LB fill. Bulwark puts up Instrument in Peril for Louise because she's the only one using an instrument. Actually, Bulwark is too. No, he isn't actually. He's using a staff. And then Blair, yeah. So Morale, Mixtape, and Blair. Kresnik on this turn. Oh yeah, we did the stat buff just for Morale. I forget what Kresnik did. Oh yeah, he did immunity buffs. Oh yeah, I clicked and I misclicked and I couldn't find the multicast. There it was. So we did immunity buffs, and the rest is not really very relevant. Okay, and now we get ready to burst. So at this point, we're going into the burst turn with 3 stacks on Sky. We also have Carton's mod boost active. Also, before the fight, I did change gearing priority. I'll mention that real quick. I re-geared the party. I equipped Laura first, and then I gave Sky second priority on gear. Then Carton got third priority. Then Louise got last priority. So in my earlier clears, I was given Carton second priority. I changed that. Now Sky has second priority, so it boosted Sky's damage a decent amount, and it helped. Of course, variance is still a big part of this, but it does work, as you're going to see. Barely, but it worked. And this clear was not the smoothest. It got real messy at the end, and you're gonna see why I was a little bit salty. Okay, so we're getting ready for the burst. We do Sky's LB. We do Frenzy on Carton. We do Volatile on Laura. When you're clicking before the physicals, Laura goes first, so she breaks 90 for everyone. Kresnik, support chains with Quad. Quad did the morale buffs first, I guess. Okay, morale buffs first. We shift Louise, and we do her Gun and Peril. And she changed first, so the Gun and Peril is up before the rest of the units. Now, real quick, I'll mention, if you can fit a 4th skill on Kresnik, you can actually get a spec more damage by using Louise to do 2 times disarming, 1 times neutralizing, and then capping it with her Magnus. The problem is, I couldn't fit any other source of black magic on Kresnik. I couldn't fit the Luci Ring, not to mention that would cause, holy counterattacks. I couldn't give Kresnik some other kind of black magic spell to not break the chain. So Kresnik is forced in my gear. He's forced to quad cast Aroga, meaning I had to match that with Louise. Because if Louise did 3 times Chaos Wave and 1 times Cap, and then Kresnik did 4 times Chaos Wave, the chain would break. I'd be real irritated. So we were forced to do a quad Chaos Wave with Louise. If you're able to fit a black magic spell on Kresnik somehow, that he doesn't have to do a 4th cast of Aroga, then you can let Louise self-cap for a bit more damage. I couldn't fit it. So we had to quad cast Aroga with Kresnik. And then Bulwark shifts and does Mascophony. That applies the re-raise for the party as well. Also, triple Bolting Strike Chain. Get a tiny speck of damage in. Every little bit helps. Here we go. Did my chaining. This is full modifiers. I had never done an attempt before with Carton at mod boost as well. So here it went. There's the damage. Like I said, we damage capped. It was so razor's edge tight. We literally only did 7 million over the requirement, and Bulwark usually chains for about 15 million. So if Bulwark wasn't chaining, we wouldn't have that damage cap in this clear. This was so close. Now, this was actually my first attempt with this brand new team, so it's possible maybe that was a low roll. Maybe this team usually overcaps because we're stacking Cartons out. We're modifier boosting Carton now. We're always getting 3 stacked with Sky when we reach this turn. So maybe this was just a bad roll, or maybe it was an amazing roll and it only works if we all roll perfect. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I got it. We're going to continue the video and we're going to see where I almost lost my mind, because this is where the clear goes downhill really freaking bad. But I pulled it out. Let's continue the video. At this point, I yelled. I was like, yeah! I was so happy. My mood changed real quick right here. And this is where things started going poorly. Okay, so it seems just random who lives and who dies on this turn. Usually re-raise will save some units, and then Guts will save them again. This boss was pissed. He was pissed that I damage capped. He killed everyone twice. This was the problem. I was starting to sweat right here. I got a perfect roll and it's over. I'm like, oh no. Okay, so what you do here when this happens, you AoE raise with Kresnik. You do immunity buffs with Remedy. And then you do AoE re-raise with Medicinal Mastery. Because we're going to need that again later. Wait for this to finish. Okay, here's something that's really, really critical to keep in mind, especially when this scenario happens. You have to hit the boss with one of the proper elements after the burst turn, or his mitigation will not go away. All the DPS died, so no one was available to hit the boss, meaning Bulwark has to attack the boss this turn, or you won't break that mitigation a second time. So Bulwark, he's still imbued with wind from earlier in the fight. We imbued on turn 4, so 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this is the last turn of the wind imbue, but he still had it on this turn. So you've got to toss in an attack on Bulwark. We also need his Magnus. I'll pause it real quick, because remember we did his LB on turn 3, and his LB is a 5 turns of mitigation. We need to get him survival so he doesn't die with a normal attack. Maybe you can RNG it and not do the Magnus on this turn, but I didn't want to risk it. So we need to do the Magnus. We need to also do the hit the boss, and you got to keep his triple cast active as well. So this turn we have to do in the base form mixtape. See. Okay, so normally this is the turn I re-imbue the party. So I clicked Hurricane by instinct. You got to adjust that. So we did Chokeophony. Chokeophony does the damage to the boss, and it does use your weapon or your imbue. So that's how we dealt elemental damage this turn. So Chokeophony, Jubilee on himself so he doesn't die, and then Mixtape to keep triple cast going. So, and then I did this for morale gain, because I was also kind of panicking about not getting enough morale. I'll pause real quick. Yeah, this was after doing 3 clears with Elena, and each time I didn't have enough morale, so I was sweating for so many different reasons. I kept thinking because we delayed Kresnik shift form, we didn't do stimulant until turn 3. I kept thinking I got the damage cap, I'm gonna beat it, I'm gonna end the fight, and I'm gonna be at 29.9 morale score, and I'm gonna lose them on. So I was trying to squeeze in every speck of extra morale as I could during this recovery, which was risky, but it was okay. So look at the morale at the top of here. The morale up here is going far to the right, and I'm noticing this, and I'm like, oh geez, our morale is just tanking, and we're losing morale. We're not going to deal good damage for the burst. Am I even going to finish this fight off in 10 turns? I was so nervous right here. Anyway, Everyone was recovered, so we're getting ready to go. We have no buffs, though, because once again, we couldn't even imbue. If I had been able to imbue with Bulwark on the previous turn, we could have used him and Louise to chain and done good damage and all. I didn't have any buffs because everyone flipping died twice on that burst turn. So this was like worst case scenario, but it still was okay. So Bulwark had to buff. We had no choice. So we did Imbue, we did Killer, and we did. I was going to do Mascaphony, then I remembered we have re-raise from Kresnik. So I think I just did Chirp because again I was sweating that morale. I did not want to finish this and come up short on morale. And then I was going to shift and chain Louise. I'm like, I don't want to risk it. We're going to do Killers, and we're going to do LB fill for Laura, because Laura's LB is not filled because she was freaking dead. So we filled LB with that. Again, I was right there. I was like really panicking because Laura's LB wasn't super full, and we only did a triple Ionic. That wasn't guaranteed to fill Laura. Thankfully, we had good luck on fill rate, so we got her filled up. So let's go ahead and burst again, which is what we did. We LB'd with Sky, we shifted Carton, and we... I'll show you another problem real quick. Frenzy. Okay, another problem. Look at the morale gauge. We can't even do the attack and magic buff because our morale is too bad. So we had no good attack and magic buff for the second burst. This was going wrong in so many ways after everyone died that turn. So we did our burst. Here we go. Eventually. I was like considering alternatives, but no, we did it. So we did the burst. Overall, it was okay. It wasn't great. It left the boss at 16%. And then we tried to refill LB gauge with Kresnik so we can burst again with Laura and Sky. Here's where the boss was an absolute asshole a second time. Yeah. Killed people. We have re-raise from this. Killed Carton. Carton came back. Then the boss just goes nuts on double freaking kills yet again. Right here was where I freaked out the most. Carton is currently the lowest member in the party order. If you're familiar with things like the way the single skill multi-chain abilities work, like Carton's Frenzy or the Oak Barrage on Melia, stuff like that, those abilities will always break the chain if they're lower in the party order than their partner chainer. I never really cared about that because in my current party order, Carton is either going to be chaining with Laura Croft, and Laura Croft is ahead of him. Laura Croft has one as well. Laura Croft has the her volatile is a single skill triple caster, so that always works with Carton. Or I was going to chain with Sky, doing her triple casted regular BS skill, and Sky is lower in the party order. Both of Carton's partners died, and Louise or Bulwark, the only other viable chainers, were both higher in the party order. So I was so worried at this point. So let's go ahead and continue watching. This is the last turn we have to get a perfect score. Turn 10. It's kill now or it's over. So I'm sitting there thinking, I can chain Carton. Now, if I chain Louise plus Bulwark as a partner and then tossed Carton into that chain, it wouldn't break. Because that's 2 units keeping the chain going, and Carton can tag along. That would have been fine. Carton died and re-raised. He has no imbue right now. So I have to imbue with Bulwark. There is no choice. Bulwark cannot chain. He's got to imbue Carton this turn. So yeah, I was sitting there thinking. I'm my mind was spinning. How can I salvage this? So I'm like, all right. This is what I was gonna chain. I was gonna try to chain Bolting Strike with Louise and Bulwark, and they were gonna go for it. And then I'm like, oh no, it don't. He's got to imbue. This is where I was preparing to chain Mascaphony, and then I realized, oh, I don't have the imbue. I have to imbue this turn. So we get the killer, and then I'm like, whatever. I think I did Chirp again. Yeah, because again, I was panicking on that morale. So I did that. Okay, and then I'm like, we've got to finish the boss. So we've got to use for Frenzy. So we're gonna hope for the best here, and maybe we're lucky and the chain doesn't break. Attack and magic buff. So here I am. I'm like, okay, maybe the chain won't break. Maybe we'll get lucky. Of course not. It always freaking breaks when the party unit is lower in the party. It didn't matter. Even with a broken chain, Carton finished it off like a boss. Barely. 600,000. I think the boss has 3.5, so 600 is something like 18%. The boss was at 16, so we barely finished it with a perfect score. That was hectic. That was nerve-wracking. It worked, but oh my god. So here's the damage breakdown. Louise, I think only chained. Did she chain? No, she chained twice. She chained on the real burst turn and she chained on the final turn. Laura chained twice as well. Carton got 3 chains in. 2 of them were good chains and one of them was like a janky broken chain. I think Sky bursted twice as well. So Sky did okay. Here's the damage breakdown. I wish we could like ask the game, show me the turn 7 only damage, but whatever. So there it was. Oh yeah, and that got me rank 2. I'm sharing the perfect scores of 935, 935. Yep, there it is, rank 2. Okay, so now let me go ahead and get back to the real game, and I will show the gear and explain the team. So see you in a second. All right, guys, I just recorded the video where we watched the clear. So here was the team we used, and I'll show you the changes we made. So first of all, you'll notice the espers have moved around slightly. We did give Ifrit to Sky for better morale or better damage, etc. So Sky's gear in the base form, wind weapon. Well, she has guts and immunity, but as you saw, she died every time the boss did damage, and she died twice. So, you know, it should have worked. It didn't. I don't know. Here is her shift form. Guts in the shift form so that she can RNG stack up on turns 2 and 3, and we get 1 get out of jail free card. And then, as you saw, the third stack, we use Kresnik to always survive it. Maxed LB damage by way too much. Plant killer and no aquatic killer. So 225 total killers. Carton in the base form is using Lion Emblem. This helps us get LBs 3 times in a row on Sky. He's using 180 or better ice, light, and water. He's got a source of guts in the base form. Calamity Border for turn 1. That is very important. Like I mentioned, we're not using Kresnik to buff on turn 1. And then shift form, he's using the 3rd tier gear, but he is dual wielding, so it's actually not quite as bad because you get more killers when you dual wield. 200 plant and 275 aqua, so he's actually really high on killers. Don't forget, for those of you, the Tiger Fangs from like 2 years ago, this gives you 75 aqua killer. It's really good for any fist dual wielders you're using. Laura Croft in the base form is just using guts and 180 or better, or 175 or better to ice, water, and light. She died twice because screw her too. This clear was stressful. Zidane STMR, and then shift form is the big damage. Chainer gun build versus aqua and plants. 175. Oh, that's the wrong one. 200 plant and 200 aqua. Kresnik in the base form is using 175 or better ice, water, and light resist. Erinys Ring, Chocobo Feather for the quadcast. There's his setup. He did start in the base form. We don't want to shift until turn 2. Shift form is using kind of an old build, honestly, but it's fine. All that really matters in the shift form is immunity to the 3 elements, 175 or better. Louise in the base form, thunder and fire weapon. Other than that, nothing really important. Just fire and thunder weapon. 175 or better, and guts. And she died twice too. Everyone did. Sad face. Shift form is using a gun and a harp. Just damage versus plants and aqua. And I think she's at 200 or 300 to all. 300 to all. And then Bulwark. So in the base form, he needs to have, in the base form, 315 or better to ice, water, and light resist, with 315 or better, and passive provoke. So that's fine in the base form. The shift form, because we're not doing Kresnik's resist on turn 1, we're only getting Calamity Border. He needs to have 335 or better to ice, water, and light resist. Thankfully, the shift form has a natural 25% higher light resist, so it's a little bit easier to gear. I could only gear it in the shift form. I actually couldn't gear it in the base form. That's why he starts in the shift form and he spends turn 1 in the shift form. Because starting on turn 2, we've got Kresnik's buffs. But here is the build we used. Very hard to build with resistance gear, but we did do it and we had enough. So there was my cap score without Tiana on EX235%, whatever. Anyway, if you go for this clear, it does work. It is very hard to pull off, but it works. See you next time.